You walk out of your front door at 6:30 in the morning. The air is still cold. The neighborhood is silent, save for the distant hum of a commuter on the highway. You turn around, lock the deadbolt, and step down onto the driveway. As you reach for your car door, you feel it. The unmistakable, prickling sensation of being watched. You look up. Perched on the black utility wire, perfectly silhouetted against the gray morning sky, is a crow. It does not caw. It does not fly away. It simply tilts its head downward, its dark, bead-like eye fixed entirely on you. You stare back for a second, maybe two. Then you break eye contact. You get into your car, start the engine, and drive away. By the time you reach the end of your street, you have completely forgotten about the bird. You assume it was just a random encounter in a world that you control. A meaningless overlap of a human and an animal. You are entirely wrong. That bird was not just looking at you. It was scanning you. It was recording the precise geometry of your face, the distance between your eyes, the exact slope of your jawline, the unique asymmetry of your gait as you walked down the driveway. It was taking a biometric photograph of your physical identity, and it was filing that data away in a brain that is fundamentally different from ours, yet terrifyingly similar in its capacity for long-term memory, and more importantly, its capacity for a grudge.
We walk through our manicured suburban neighborhoods, operating under a profound delusion. We think we are the apex predators of this environment. We believe that the animals around us are just background noise, scavengers, unthinking biological machines reacting to instinct. But the reality of what is happening in the trees above your house is much darker and far more calculated. You are living inside a highly organized surveillance state, and the cameras have feathers. To understand what is happening outside your window, you first have to understand the biological hardware inside a crow's skull. For decades, the scientific community insulted avian intelligence by coining the phrase bird brain. It was a synonym for stupidity. Biologists believed that because birds lacked a mammalian neocortex, the deeply folded, wrinkled outer layer of the brain that gives humans and primates our high-level processing power, they were physically incapable of complex thought. We looked at their smooth, tiny brains and assumed they were running on basic, primitive software. We were completely wrong. Through millions of years of divergent evolution, crows developed a completely different neurological architecture to achieve the exact same level of intelligence. It is called the nidopallium. Instead of folding their brain tissue to create surface area, crows packed an astronomical number of neurons into a dense, tightly compressed cluster. Their neurons are much smaller and packed far more tightly than human neurons. This means that while a crow's brain is only the size of a walnut, its processing power, relative to its size, rivals that of a chimpanzee. This biological supercomputer gives them cognitive abilities that feel uncomfortably human. They understand the concept of water displacement. They can bend straight pieces of wire into hooks to extract food from tubes. They understand the mathematical concept of zero. But most importantly, this dense neurological network gives them an eerie, highly evolved form of social intelligence. It allows them to understand you. Not humans as a broad, generic species. You, the individual. In the early 2000s, a team of researchers at the University of Washington, led by wildlife biologist John Marsloff, decided to test the limits of this intelligence. They wanted to know if wild crows could actually differentiate between individual human faces. The experiment they designed was simple, but the results fundamentally altered our understanding of the natural world. The researchers purchased 2 latex masks. One was a generic, non-threatening face.
The other was a terrifying, exaggerated caveman mask with a heavy brow and a wide jaw. A researcher put on the caveman mask and walked out onto the campus. Their objective was to deliberately harass the local crow population. They trapped several birds, held them down, attached identification bands to their legs, and released them. It was a highly stressful, traumatic event for the flock. Then, the researcher took the mask off. The campus returned to its normal, peaceful state. Days later, a different researcher walked across the exact same quad wearing the friendly mask. The crows ignored him. He was just another human walking to class. But then, a researcher stepped out of a building wearing the caveman mask. The moment the rubber face entered the sunlight, the atmosphere on the campus instantly changed. The crows did not just remember the mask, they remembered the trauma associated with it. They immediately mobilized. A harsh, aggressive alarm call echoed across the quad. Within seconds, a localized mob formed. Dozens of crows descended from the trees, dive-bombing the researcher, screaming and tracking his every movement. They were launching a coordinated assault against the specific face that had wronged them days before. This alone was a massive scientific breakthrough. It proved that crows possess facial recognition capabilities that rival our own. But the researchers wanted to push the boundaries. They wanted to see how long the grudge would last. Weeks passed. Every time the mask appeared, the crows attacked. Months passed. The attacks grew more aggressive. Years passed. The original researchers who conducted the trapping graduated and left the university. New students who had never even seen the original experiment put on the caveman mask and walked outside. The mobbing was instantaneous and vicious.
And then, something entirely impossible happened. Crows that had never been trapped, crows that were not even born when the original experiment took place, began actively attacking the mask. How does an animal recognize and attack a face it has never seen, for a crime it never witnessed? The answer to that question shatters the illusion of human superiority. They talk. They have language. They pass the description of the caveman mask down through generations. They communicated the exact biometric data of the enemy to their peers, to their children, and to their children's children. A grandfather crow, who was trapped years ago, told a story to his flock about a monster with a heavy brow. And a decade later, his descendants are still waging a localized generational war against a ghost. They do not just squawk and caw. They possess distinct regional dialects. A crow in Seattle sounds fundamentally different from a crow in New York. Their vocalizations contain incredibly specific information. They have different alarm calls for a cat, for a hawk, for a human with a gun, and for an unarmed human. They can encode and transmit complex visual descriptions through sound. Now, take that horrifying reality and apply it to your own life. Think about the physical space around your house. Think about the times you have shooed a crow away from your garbage cans. Think about the time you yelled at one because it was making too much noise while you were trying to sleep. Think about the time you absent-mindedly tossed a rock in its direction to scare it off the fence. You forgot about the incident 5 minutes later. The crow did not. It mapped your face, it memorized your exact address, and it told the rest of the neighborhood. Crows operate in complex, highly organized societies. We colloquially call them a murder of crows, but a much more accurate term would be a syndicate. They have strict territories, they have social hierarchies, they have laws. When you look at a group of crows sitting on a telephone wire, spaced evenly apart, you are not looking at a random flock of birds resting. You are looking at a border patrol. You are looking at heavily armed sentinels standing guard over their specific turf. Every neighborhood, every street, every cul-de-sac is carved up into invisible, fiercely defended zones, controlled by different crow families, and they know exactly what goes on inside their borders. They know the exact route of the garbage truck and what time it arrives. They know which neighborhood dogs are tied up, which ones are fenced in, and which ones are allowed to roam free. And they know your schedule. They know when you leave for work. They know when you come home. You are a highly predictable variable in their environment. When you walk down the street to check your mail, you are crossing through their jurisdiction. They allow it because you are currently classified as a non-threat, or perhaps because you indirectly provide food. But do not mistake their silence for submission. You are constantly being evaluated, and this evaluation works both ways. If you have ever been kind to them, if you have ever consistently fed the crows in your area, you may have experienced one of the most bizarre and misunderstood behaviors in the animal kingdom. You might step onto your porch and find a shiny object perfectly placed on the railing. A piece of broken green glass, a pull tab from a soda can, a shiny pebble, a lost screw. Most people think it is a cute coincidence. If it happens twice, they think it is a strange anomaly. But it is neither. It is a highly calculated transaction. Crows are one of the only animals on Earth that engage in deliberate, sustained gift-giving with humans. But this is not a cute cartoon. This is not an act of innocent friendship. It is a psychological tactic. It is a peace offering. It is a way of paying rent to the local warlord. They recognize that you, the human, are the apex controller of the food source in that specific location. By offering a tribute, they are actively cementing a positive political relationship with you. They are ensuring that the food continues to flow. It is a masterful manipulation of human empathy. They understand that if they give you a piece of shiny garbage, your brain will flood with dopamine. You will be charmed. You will feel a false sense of connection, and you will go inside and buy more peanuts. You think you are taming a wild animal, but the reality is, you are being trained by a bird. But there is a much darker side to the complex rules of their society. A side that proves just how cold and calculating their intelligence truly is. What happens when a crow dies? If you ever see a dead crow lying on the street or on a lawn, stop and watch the sky. Within minutes, the atmosphere will change. Other crows will begin to gather. They will fly in from surrounding neighborhoods, crossing territorial lines that they would normally defend with their lives. They will land in the trees, on the fences, and on the power lines surrounding the body. Sometimes 10 of them, sometimes 50. And then, they will go completely silent. They will not touch the body. They will not scavenge it. They will just sit there, staring down at the corpse in absolute terrifying silence. People call these gatherings crow funerals. It looks like mourning. It looks like a community grieving a lost friend. But biologists who have studied this behavior believe it is something far more clinical and far more chilling. It is not a funeral. It is a forensic investigation. The crows are studying the scene of the crime. They are analyzing the environment to determine exactly what killed their fellow syndicate member. Was it a feral cat? Was it a new disease? Or was it a human? They are gathering vital intelligence. They are mapping the danger zones in that specific area so they can update their mental maps and avoid the same fate. And if they determine that a human was responsible for the death, they will memorize that human's face. They will broadcast that face to the entire flock, and a localized, highly coordinated cycle of psychological warfare will begin. There are even documented accounts from ornithologists observing what can only be described as a trial. In rare instances, a massive circle of crows will form around a single living bird. The flock will stand in silence for several minutes. Then, a silent signal is passed. The entire flock descends on the bird in the center and violently executes it. Was it a rival spy? Was it a member of their own family who broke a fundamental law of the flock? We do not know. The inner workings of their justice system remain a complete mystery to us, but it proves that their society is governed by strict rules, and the punishment for breaking them is death. The next time you walk out of your house, do not just look at your phone. Look up. Pay attention to the power lines sagging under the weight of black feathers. Pay attention to the bare branches of the oak tree in your front yard. Notice the silent silhouettes watching you from the rooftops. They are not just resting, they are working. They are logging your departure time. They are noting what you are carrying in your hands. They are observing the subtle shifts in your mood and the speed of your walk. You are living your entire life inside a sprawling, invisible observation enclosure. You think you are the main character in the story of your neighborhood. You think it is your territory. But to the crows, you are just a supporting actor. You are a predictable, easily manipulated element in their complex, ancient struggle for survival. They have watched you grow up. They have watched your parents grow old. They have passed detailed biometric stories about your family down through generations of their own. They know the layout of your property better than you do. They know your habits. They know your face. They know you better than you know them. So, as you go about your day, driving to work, walking your dog, taking out the trash, remember that you are never truly anonymous. The streetlights might be turned off. The neighborhood security cameras might have blind spots, but the surveillance network of the natural world is always online. You are constantly being watched, evaluated, and remembered by an intelligence that was mapping this earth long before human civilization laid its first brick. An intelligence that operates entirely in the shadows, right out in the open. While that crow is watching you from the street, mapping your every move, an entirely different turf war is being waged directly above your head in the attic. For more amazing videos like this, subscribe and turn on your notification bell.